Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to One Fall Friday. Now, you have to excuse me, I feel a little bit under the weather today, but that's not going to stop us from talking about wrestling. So, let's get right into it. So this week, I'm just going to briefly talk about Battleground because there was a lot that happened this week on Raw and SmackDown that I want to discuss. Summerslam is coming up, it's the next pay-per-view, and it's one of the biggest pay-per-views. WWE, they have 4 major pay-per-views: WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble. SummerSlam has always been called the biggest party of the summer, and it's always a big draw. You never know what's going to happen at a SummerSlam, so getting excited about that. But first, let's talk about Battleground. So much like Great Balls of Fire, the first match of the night was, in my opinion, the best match of the night. It was the Tag Team Championship match between the Usos and the New Day. I predicted that New Day would come out on top, and they did. There were so many false finishes in this match. I mean, like I said, it was probably the best match of the night. And by the end of it, I think the crowd was already exhausted. And that was just the first match of the night. They had to get through the rest of it. So, yeah, they really, New Day and the Usos, like, I love watching them go at it, and they really set the bar for the pay-per-view, and kudos to them. Next match after that was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Baron Corbin. I think I had Baron Corbin winning. He ended up getting himself disqualified, had a low blow to Shinsuke, and we definitely didn't get to see the last of them. They had a follow-up match on SmackDown, and Shinsuke won cleanly that match, which sets up to another match that's going to happen next Thursday, that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Then we had the Fatal 5-Way Elimination match with the women to determine the #1 contender for the SmackDown Women's title at SummerSlam. I predicted that Tamina would win, and surprisingly enough, Tamina was the first one to be eliminated, and followed by Lana, and then Becky Lynch. We had 3 eliminations just back to back to back after maybe a good solid 10 minutes of a good match. So it seemed kind of rushed, but you know, with these multiple people matches, we see a lot of them lately, and they've just kind of lost their specialness, especially when they feel rushed through like that. Anyway, Natalya was the one that came out on top in this particular match. I am not upset about that at all. I've said before that Natalya needed to be in the title picture, and I'm really happy that she finally gets to be in it. Next up, we had the much anticipated match of AJ Styles, the US champion, versus Kevin Owens. I had Kevin Owens coming out on top. He did. It was kind of a out of nowhere victory. They were exchanging submission holds, and then next thing you know, he scores the pinfall. Boom. And then the following night on Tuesday, he comes out talking about how he's not going to have a title match, or he's not going to have any match, but he ends up being put in a triple threat match against the former champion AJ Styles and the returning Chris Jericho. And he ends up losing the title to AJ Styles. He didn't get pinned, but that's the rules of a triple threat match, is that you don't have to be pinned to lose the title. Kevin Owens had just delivered a frog splash to Jericho, and he got a 2 count. He got ripped off from AJ and thrown out of the ring, and then AJ picked up the pinfall. Boom, he's the champion again. And they're gonna have a title rematch just one-on-one the following Tuesday on SmackDown. Next up, we had the flag match, Rusev versus John Cena. I had John Cena winning, and John Cena did win. The match kind of went on a little bit long. They could have ended it maybe 5-10 minutes sooner than they did, and I kind of wish they did, because the whole pay-per-view ended up running over, I think maybe 10-13 minutes. But this was, I mean, the main event maybe could have been a little shorter too, but this one definitely could have been shorter. But other than that, it was a good match. Okay, so in my previous vlog, I had stated that I wasn't sure if it was an official match or not, but I figured it would happen at Battleground, and it was Mike Kanellis versus Sami Zayn. They actually did have a first match on the following, on the SmackDown before Battleground. And Mike Kanellis did win. That's who I thought would win between the two. But then they had a rematch at Battleground, and Sami Zayn won. So that was kind of neat how that worked. Their first match on SmackDown, Mike just sold the whole match. and ended up with 2 moves at the end, and that's how he won. He sold a lot more in this other match, but he also got a chance to put in some of his own moves and, work the mat and set the pace, so to speak. And the interaction between him and Maria, they crack me up so much. Every time I hear their music, every time they come out, they just make me laugh. So I really enjoy seeing these two, and it would be cool to see them go have some kind of interaction with The Miz and Maurice sometime in the future. Keeping my fingers crossed for that one. And the final match, the main event, was the Punjabi prison match, Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton. I had Jinder winning, and Jinder did win. It was cool to see the Great Khali come back at the end and kind of interfere in the match. That was something I didn't expect, nothing I had heard about, and it was kind of cool to see him again, especially since he was in the only 2 other matches previously. So, and one of the Singh brothers, they're twin brothers, and their first names are very, very similar, and I don't know who is who just yet, but one of them took a really nasty, ugly bump. He was almost practically at the top of the outside cell, and I don't know if he got punched or headbutt, something. He got hit by Randy, and he fell all the way and went through a table. It was not quite as far as what Mick Foley did in Hell in a Cell, but I mean, it was almost just as close. It was, as high as they wanted to go, as comfortable, I guess they wanted to go, as taking a risk like that. I mean, geez, if you watch, they played it in slow motion. It did not look like it felt good, but man, kudos for him for taking that. Okay, the Raw after Battleground. This is where SummerSlam really starts to mold and take shape. The previous week that I didn't talk about because I was giving my predictions for Battleground there was a #1 contender match between Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns. That match ended in a no contest because Braun Strowman came out and beat the shit out of both of them. So the following week, I mean, it was kind of obvious where they were going to go because you can't really pick one out of these 3. So ends up, we're going to have a Fatal 4-Way, Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe versus Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns for the Universal title. Now this, they can do a lot of different things. They could either have Lesnar win, or they could have Lesnar lose the title without him necessarily being beaten, and that way you can kind of mix and match between the 4 of these throughout the course of the next couple pay-per-views. That's probably what they'll end up doing. At this point, if someone was going to take the title from Lesnar, I think it's a little too early for Roman to have it. I really think they're waiting until WrestleMania, and then they're going to have him win the Universal Championship at WrestleMania. Probably from Brock Lesnar, who knows? That's just what the rumor has been since the end of this previous WrestleMania that we just had. Samoa Joe would make a great champion, but Braun Strowman would make a great champion too. But it's still a little early in Braun Strowman's career for him to have the title. Not that means that they haven't done something like that before, like with Sheamus or Kurt Angle. He won the title before his first year was even up. So it wouldn't be unheard of for Braun to win the title, and it wouldn't be anything that would upset me by any means. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see how they book this match in the following Raws to come until SummerSlam for me to have a more solid idea of who I think is going to come out on top of this match when it happens. We also saw who was going to be the #1 contender for the Raw Women's Championship, and that is Bayley. And she had a match with her best friend Sasha Banks. I've been kind of poking around the idea of one of these two turning heel. It would be cool to see Sasha Banks have another heel run like she did in NXT, because she makes a really good heel. And she's so over right now that it really wouldn't hurt her to be a heel. At the same time, Bayley has gone on record talking about how she doesn't really know where she's going with her character. She doesn't know what she's aiming for, other than she wants to be in the title picture and maybe not necessarily be the champion, but be in title matches. But as far as her character is concerned, she felt like she was getting a little stale, and I don't know. But, and, you know, I think she was on Stone Cold's podcast, and he was like, well, you know, what about a heel turn or something to that degree? And she didn't necessarily seem, you know, against the idea, but it's not entirely her decision. It's up to the creative team to decide where they want to go. So it was either the first or second week that Bray Wyatt had been on Raw that he turned his attention to Finn Balor. It was right before their Fatal 5-Way match was announced, and I kind of figured that these two, I was like, well, it's obvious, you know, there's some interaction here. They're going to have a good one-on-one fight. It didn't happen right away after the Fatal 5-Way. What happened was Bray Wyatt went after Seth Rollins, and I guess maybe that was so he could gain a little bit of momentum going into his match against Finn Balor, because Finn Balor had already, well, I mean, Bray Wyatt was WWE champion for a month, and Finn Balor was the first Universal champion, so I don't know. In my opinion, it didn't really need to be built that much more. They should have just went ahead and had their one-on-one match, but maybe they were saving it for SummerSlam, because you know that with the kind of character that Bray is, that Finn Balor is probably going to bring his demon persona to the ring for their match, and it would make more sense for them to do it at SummerSlam, which is kind of a bigger stage than some of these other not so big pay-per-views that they put on a monthly basis. So I expect them to have a match at SummerSlam, and I expect it to be a great match, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see Demon Finn Balor. Now on the SmackDown spectrum, I already mentioned one, which was the triple threat match with the US title. That was a pay-per-view quality triple threat match that we saw. But following his victory, Jinder Mahal said that he demanded better competition, or, you know, a worthy opponent, so to speak, for SummerSlam. And I knew as soon as they said that he was going to come out and say that John Cena was going to show up, because he was hot off of a win himself. So here comes John Cena. He does his normal song and dance. And it's funny because he actually referred to himself as Super Cena, so that just made me laugh. He knows that he's paying attention to what people are saying about him, so I just got a kick out of it. So he was making his way back to the back after his big spiel when all of a sudden here comes Daniel Bryan, and he said that, yeah, it doesn't matter who you are, what your name is, here on SmackDown, you have to earn opportunities, and I loved to hear that. I mean, it's fine if they want to put him against Jinder Mahal. I expect it. That's what, you know, people probably want to see. But it makes better sense, and it's easier to see John Cena in a title match at this point if he beats somebody in order to be in the title picture. That's all I think anybody ever wanted. You know, that's a lot of people's complaint, was that John Cena just gets put in title matches all the time. He never earns them. So, you know, that just goes to show that Daniel Bryan pays attention to what people say as well. So I'm happy that he decided to do that, and I'm even more happy to hear who his opponent is, and that's Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, that is an obvious thing from the start. You know, when they brought in Shinsuke, it was like, okay, at some point while he's still wrestling, John Cena needs to fight him, because why the hell not? The only thing that sucks, though, is that it's going to be on TV SmackDown and not like a pay-per-view, because it's probably going to be interrupted with a commercial midway, and so the people that are live there watching the match are going to be the ones that get the benefit the most out of this, because it's hard to get into a big name match like that if, you know, you got to sit through 2.5 minutes of advertisements before you get to it. But or even when you're watching it on a replay on Hulu or even the WWE Network, they still go to that, like, you know, they transition to the commercial, they fade out, they fade back in, and you've lost that many minutes of the match. Now, usually they're sitting in a submission hold, catching their breath by that time. You know, they time it out that way, but sometimes they don't, and you end up missing some cool stuff. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Also, the week following the last vlog that I recorded that I didn't get to see before I recorded was we got our new #1 contender for the NXT title. That's going to happen at TakeOver Brooklyn 3, and it's Drew McIntyre. he's going to take on Bobby Roode. That's going to be an amazing match. I cannot wait to see that. We just found out this past Wednesday that Ember Moon is going to face Asuka. I kind of figured that was going to happen. I mean, it sucked that she didn't get to be in that Fatal 4-Way match, but you knew that she probably wouldn't win that match anyway because they wanted to have another one-on-one with Asuka and Ember because of how their last match ended, which was kind of controversial. I still, you know, I've held firm that Ember Moon is going to be the one to end Asuka's undefeated streak. TakeOver Brooklyn is their biggest NXT TakeOver event. What better time than now? Okay, so that's going to wrap up this week's vlog. Again, I apologize for, you know, seeing a little less lively, a little less full of energy. It's just because I feel like Garbo, but I needed to get this video recorded, and, you know, sometimes you just gotta work whenever you're sick. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching this week's video. I'll be back later with another video. I hope to see you there. My name is Dave, and I am the one-man rave.
Fire!